Hello and welcome to episode 46 of FPL Journey to 10K. Still the only podcast in the series in which we delve into the mind of one of the greatest players to ever play the game. In the 9 seasons he's played, there's 8 top 25,000 finishes, 6 top 10K finishes. He is in the fantasy football fix Elite 11 and is a former world number 1. I am, of course, talking about my co-host, Mr. Matthew Corbett, who's giving you the inside knowledge of how he plays the game. Matt, couple of things. Number one, how are you, good sir? Number two, we're 2 days away from the Premier League season kicking off and another fantasy football season. Are you excited? And number three, how much tinkering have you done in the last 2 weeks?
Oh, mate, yeah, I might have to read those questions, but I am well, mate. I am well. Thank you for having me again. Looking forward for another season. I'm feeling optimistic, excited, all those emotions. I think we said it 2 weeks ago. We caught up, didn't we? Just about a bit of a pre-season kind of pod, and I think the price points and the options, it can lead to a bit of diversity, right? So I think there's kind of lots of different drafts out there, lots of different options. So I think that's kind of super interesting. And I think that's been driven primarily by prices. So I think that's kind of good fun. How am I looking forward to it? Yeah, I've answered that question. I'm looking forward to it. What is it, like 48 hours now?
48, just shy. I think it's 46 to be exact.
What is United Fulham, right?
United Fulham at 6:30 on Friday. So anybody listening, don't miss it. 6:30 in the evening on Friday is the deadline.
And we have any players in that game? You got a vested interest when you're watching it?
Well, that would be telling. The whole idea, as people have probably got from the episode title, is our team reveals or our last minute drafts that we're currently working on. But yeah, at the minute I've got one player in that game.
Oh, very good, man.
How many are you playing?
Yeah, I've got two. I've got a few locks in my team, but yeah, two of my starters will be playing that game. So like it makes it interesting, and we'll be watching it. I won't watch it live, but we'll be watching it, on TV. So
yeah,
we'll
be watching it together.
We will. I wonder if we've got the same players on different ones. Like, yeah, I'll see that. That'll determine whether we're still mates by the end of the night. And tinkering, mate. Yeah, I think I was very settled on my structure, my team for kind of weeks, and didn't really give it too much thought. I think start of this week, I think I overconsumed content. I was on like X a little bit more, listened to a few podcasts that got me like doubting myself a little bit. Yeah, we'll go through it now. But like I've had like 4 or 5 radically different drafts, but I think I'm back on the straight and narrow. I know what I'm going to do, so I'm feeling good. What about you? Is your camera roll just like
constant tinkering? Even it's lots of screenshots on my phone. I told my wife about a week ago, that's it. I'm settled. I've made the perfect team. There's nothing more I can do with it, and I've probably made about 5 changes since. So I clearly lied, and I keep tinkering even today. I'll show what I'm on at the minute. There's still, I'm not far. I've got maybe 9, 10 guaranteed locks, but there's a couple of players that I can move one way or another, which I'll come on to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to be back here. I'm aiming for my 3rd straight for the first time. I've never done 2 straight, but let alone 3 top 100k. But I think I've got to aim higher than that. I want my highest ever finish, mate. You're going to help me get there. Top 40k will get me my highest ever finish. Where were you thinking? Do you want to just do?
I was going to ask you that. So, what's your target? Is your best finish? So 40k, yeah.
Best finish. Best to 43k is my best finish. So if I can beat that, I'll be happy.
I'm going to aim for. I'd be happy with top 5k. That's my target every year. Obviously, last year I finished outside the top 100,000, so like I've got quite far away from that. But I think we looked at. There's some bad play, but I was like unlucky statistically. I think my expected rank was like 3,000, right? So I think overall I played okay. Like not my best season, but I played okay and got unlucky. Or just picked like people who couldn't finish. Nunes, Bruno Fernandes for periods of the year, people like Jackson. But yeah, I think it's achievable based on those stats from kind of last year. So I'd be aiming for kind of top 5K, I'd be really happy with. I'd be kind of happy with a top 10K. I'd love a top 1K rank because I've never got there. I think my top finish was about 1,050 or something like that, so just outside the top 1K. But I'd love to do that, and it's a little bit of a weird aspiration, but I like all these Hall of Fame sort of things. I want to get back up.
Yeah.
Last season, because of my really low rank, I kind of plummeted down. So I think a lot of them, I'm like maybe top 50 on those leaderboard sort of things. So I need a good season to like get back up there. So I'd love to finish the year, top 25, top 10, in those leaderboards. But I need a really good season to kind of make that happen. So we shall see.
Shows the levels though, Matt. Shows the levels. I am on those leaderboards. The one that you can see the top 100,000. I'm about 11,000 in the world, and I'm like 11,000 out of 9 million. I am well happy, and you're disappointed to be in about 50. So shows the levels that we work at, and that's the whole point in this pod. So how do I get to your level? That is the idea.
Oh, mate, you've exceeded it as well. You beat me last year, so it's only as good as your last season, right? So
exactly, you're shit. So let's bring everything up. And we decided that we'll do this season our own league. So for I put it on X earlier on today. So if you joined, thank you for joining. If you haven't, then the league code is on the screen for those that might be listening. Just to read it out to you, it is T for Tango 27 ZGC. So Tango 27 Zulu Golf Charlie. I feel like I'm in the police. I haven't put the name on there, but you'll know it's the right one because it's called FPL Journey to 10K. I've not been very creative with the name. So yeah, I don't know whether we'll give something to the winner, right, Matt? I imagine. But the whole concept is can you beat me and Matt? You might beat me. You probably won't beat Matt. But give it a go anyway.
I think you win pride. That's it. I think you have to give that disclaimer, right? Otherwise, your accounts might be deleted. So yeah, you win pride and wink, wink.
You win pride, and you get to compete against a top 50 player in the world and a former world #1. What other league can you do that in? And you get to play against Matt as well.
But we'll move on.
I'll ignore that
on that one.
But yeah, do join us. Join the league, and we'll keep tabs as we go through the season on who's leading, where we're up to, and then obviously see where me and Matt are faring against all you listeners. But today's pod is purely going to be based on drafts. There's nothing else to it. So you're the talent, Matt. We know this. So you're going to be talking through your plans, and this first screen is really focused on your lock. So yeah, please talk us through them.
Yeah. So kind of what you got on here is like a bit of a draft where it's like 10 players ish looking pretty set, and then there's like a few players around the edges that I've got to have a bit of a debate on. But like starting from I think the kind of like forward line, because I think the forward line for me has been pretty set non-stop. So Isak and Haaland have been an absolute lock since day one for me. They were always no-brainers for me, and I think anyone who was going against those two, I don't think they were thinking too clear. The third striker spot, I think there's a lot of value for in the cheaper strikers. I've got Muniz from Fulham, and that's a combination of his underlying stats from the second half of last season. They're pretty good, right, per 90. I think he's nailed for minutes because I think he's #1 striker for sure. I think his levels above Jimenez and a few bits of other competition. And Fulham have some really nice fixtures, right? So Muniz is good. I mean, the other players there's one player I probably have seriously considered, and that's probably João Pedro, right? So he's a little bit cheap. He plays for Brighton. Brighton's fixtures get good from game week 4 onwards. So I want to have a really good start, right? So I've been biased towards the first 3 game weeks, right? So I can always move Muniz to João Pedro. Transfers do exist. I think some people are forgetting that they can actually make moves. I think some people thinking I just need to get to those 5 transfers rolled, and that's like an objective. You got to be kind of reactive and adapt, right? So I could move to João Pedro, and also I want to see how Brighton set up with a new manager. I'm pretty confident of how Fulham will set up. Brighton, I'm a little bit unsure. And then people like Danny Welbeck exist, right? People like Pascal Gross exist as well, which Welbeck means that João Pedro could play as a 10 or not play at all. And then people like Gross means that he may not be on penalties, right? So I want to see. I think there's enough time to wait and see on João Pedro. The other person in that...
Gross left. Gross has gone, as you know, to Dortmund.
Oh yeah, you spot on. But I think point proven. I don't know who's going to be on penalties, right?
Yeah.
You'd think it's João Pedro, but you'd want to see it. Yeah, you want to see it to kind of believe it, essentially.
Welbeck had a really good preseason as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think as well.
Surprised if he gets the nod.
Yeah, well, he'll probably play as the 9. I reckon João Pedro, if he plays as a 10. So that could be good. It could be bad. But I think you want your striker to play as far forward as possible, generally speaking, right? So you don't want a creator. You want somebody who's going to get those the shots and the goals, essentially. So yeah, I think I can wait to see on João Pedro. But I think he's a decent pick, albeit a bit more risky from a position and minutes point of view. What is the other conversation? But for me, like he was never really, I never really had him in any draft. And a couple of reasons. One, I know Forest has got good fixtures and he scored well in FPL last year. I just don't think he's a very good player. I don't think his returns are sustainable. And Iwani is a better forward, right? So he's coming back from injury, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be the number 9 for Forest in the season, right? I think he's levels above Wood, so I think that's going to really impact Wood's minutes. So I think Wood will start the first game or two, but he'll come off, right? He'll come off. So yeah, Wood, and I generally I think he's a bit of a dull player, right? So I think you got to have players that you think are fun, right? So yeah, Woods didn't really come into the equation. So yeah, Muniz, Haaland, and Isak as the forward line for me. Kind of really happy with that and pretty set. Another player who's come up recently as a forward is like Solanke, right? So I've got an opinion on that. It'd be good to get your view. I mean, I'll ask you, Solanke, do you like him?
Not as a pick in FPL. I think the argument is he's moved to Tottenham, who will give him. They've got more attack and threat than Bournemouth. I get that. Downside to the move, he's not going to get pens anymore because I'm assuming Son's going to continue to take them, despite the fact Solanke is there. He's also competing in that position against Richarlison, who had a very good season last season when he was fit, and Ange likes him. Kulusevski's been playing up front during pre-season. Sure. So you made your point of Wood. Wood will get subbed off. If Solanke does start, surely he's getting subbed off as well because Richarlison's too good to not bring onto the pitch. So I think he's got more competition, so he's not going to get the full 90, and he's no longer getting pens. So for me, at 7.5, I think I'd similar to you here. I'd rather have my third striker as a 6 million pick and spend the 1.5 elsewhere.
No, for sure. I think wise words. I think with Solanke, I'm quite happy people are picking him, and he might blow up great, but I think it is a little bit of a high risk thing. But like, if you weren't seriously considering him at Bournemouth, why are you considering him at Spurs, right? So I think the additional goal threat at Spurs, I think, is negated by lack of pens potentially. I'd assume Son would stay on pens, right? I don't think Solanke will come in and take pens initially. That's my prediction, but hey, let's kind of see what happens. But mainly the minutes, right? 90 minutes on penalties, everything goes through you versus part of the squad, maybe not even starting, right? Maybe not on pens. And if you are starting, getting rotated, I think he's a worse pick for Spurs than he is Bournemouth, very slightly, but I think he's a worse pick. So yeah, that's a real pre-season hype. People get excited by these moves. He hasn't played a game for Spurs. Like, surely Kulusevski will kind of start. And then you mentioned Richarlison. Obviously, he hasn't really had much pre-season minutes. He's too good not to play. I think there's a bit of recency bias with Richarlison. He is a really good player. Like when that spell when he was like fit and firing, he was banging goals left, right, and centre. He was really good as an FPL asset and a striker for Spurs as well. And like, I would say the versions of Richarlison that was at Watford and Everton were levels above Bournemouth Solanke. I would say he's a better player.
I think we both had Richarlison last season at a point, and it was like he was scoring pretty much every week. I'm just gonna. It was insane. So he got 11 goals last season, and then he's had double digits in 4 Premier League seasons. Solanke 1.
And there's a lot of pens there's a lot of pens that have influenced like those Solanke goals, and like with Charles, it was in some bad Everton and bad Watford kind of teams, and still found a way. So I think he's a better player, right? I think obviously he's a bit injury prone, so that Solanke brings some benefit there. But like, I mean, it's far from a done conclusion that Solanke is going to start and they're not going to share minutes. So yeah, I think it hasn't come in the equation. I'm quite happy that people are considering Solanke as an option. I'd be surprised if he starts game week 1, which is the real prime fixture for Spurs. So yeah, Muniz, Haaland, and Isak, they're pretty much locks for me. Unless I get one of them's injured, they're in. I'm really happy with it. Midfield, I've got 3 locks here, but like I am playing around with like Salah out and Saka in, because like that 2.5 difference is quite significant, right? But I'll talk about that in another draft. But like Salah is in most of my teams, and that's because of the strong start that Liverpool have got. And as I've said, I'm really biasing my picks towards the first 3 to 5 game weeks, right? I want a really strong start, and I think I can adapt thereafter, right? So I think Salah's fixtures versus Saka's are better. Are they 2.5 million better? I don't know. That's a debate. But Salah's been in most of my drafts, right? So I've got Salah there. I've had Bruno Fernandes in most of my teams and my drafts, and I think he's a real known entity. And when he plays as a 10, his stats are exceptional. He's on every single set piece. He's on penalties, free kicks, corners. He's so creative. He creates the most chances in Europe. And like I think, Casemiro and Manu, they'll play centre mids. So Fernandes will be like further forward, right? I think he's always excelled in that position, right? It's only when he's had to play deeper, right, that he struggles a little bit. And yeah, United have mixed fixtures, but from an attacking point of view, I can see some positivity there. And like he's going to play 90 minutes every single game, right? I'm 95 plus. He's a really surefire thing, right? So I'm happy with him. I mean, I started him last year. You started with him as well last year, right? And
Iman Rashford.
He massively underperformed his stats, but I think that seemed to be a bit of a one-off. He kind of does seem to like perform in level with his underlying stats, and they're looking pretty good. I think second half of last season, his expected points per 90 was like 6.5, so that's really good. I'm kind of really happy with that. And then the other no-brainer for me, who I think is in most teams, is Eze, and that's because Palace have a good run. Eze will presume, whilst fit, would play like 90 minutes plus. He's on penalties, right? He's super attacking. I think his expected goal involvement per 90 is like above Foden, right? When you can look at it last season. So yeah, all those boxes are ticked. I think there's rumours that he'll go to City, but I don't think that'll happen. They've got Bob got there was an announcement he broke his leg, right? So there's arguably they're down on a right winger where Eze can fill, but they've still got their new signing, right? Is it Savinho? And they've got Bernardo Silva. They've got so many options. So like I don't think they need to bring in like Eze. So I'm happy starting with Eze. And then I think there's kind of 2 remaining options. Probably one of them will be Vinks. Like I do like having cheap bench fodder rather than having rotation. So I'll probably have Vinks as one. So that means Eze, Vinks, Salah, and Fernandes. And then it's just a question of that final midfielder. Do I go for a cheaper option like Rodgers or that's loads, right? Andreas, Smith Rowe? Do I go for Minted? Do I go for one of these cheaper options? Or do I go 6.5 like Nkunku, who I'll talk about him like later, but like I'm far from convinced. But there's Bailey as an option as a 6.5, or do I go up to a 7.5 such as Gordon, right? So yes, that 4th starting midfielder I think is a point of contention for me. And then going into I've jumped to my keepers now. So keepers, I think I've had locks for a while. Flecken and his backup in Brentford. I do think there's a debate to say Henderson, right? Because I think it's pretty obvious he's going to start the season, right? I think that kind of rotation risk is who was it? That was the backup.
Sam Johnston.
He's left or is leaving, right?
Leaving, but he's been stripped of the number 1 jersey, which tells you everything you need to know. It's been given to Henderson.
I mean, so it's Henderson, and I think we'll talk about wildcards and what we're planning for. I think that does influence like the time window that you want your options. Flecken for the medium term is the best option for sure. I think game weeks 1 to 5, if I'm targeting a game week 6 wildcard, yeah, I've got to say Crystal Palace's fixtures are probably a couple of degrees better. I expect at least 1 clean sheet more from Palace. So I might bring in Henderson. I think Fleck and Henderson are pretty interchangeable, but those are the 2 options kind of for me, right? So I've got Flecken at the moment, but it might turn into Henderson. And then defense is an interesting one. It'll be dictated by what I do in midfield, but at the moment I've got like 2 near locks, which is Barco from Brighton, who we think is on corners for Brighton. They got some decent fixtures, game week 3 onwards. Game week 1 is quite as good as well, right? Everton away is not the worst fixture. And we'll see if he gets rotated then. But I'm happy to take that risk as a 4.0, and I just like having a cheap bench fodder option, which is good. Most of my drafts I had Konsa because I think he's good. He represents good value at 4.5, especially when Villa's fixtures look really nice game week 4 onwards. And then I think the remaining 3 defenders, it's a question of do I have a blend of 3 4.5s, right? Who are those 4.5s, or do I have a bit more of a premium asset? So spoiler, if I was going for a premium asset in defense, it would be either Pedro Porro. I like the first 2 fixtures from a defensive point of view and an attacking point of view. And he's a player that you can feel comfortable playing every week, right? Just because of his potential for assists, right? So I think, kind of Porro, I do like him. Or do I go up to Trent, right? Obviously, that price point is tough. But Porro or Trent could be a premium option. And then, the 4.5s, I'll have at least 2 of them. I might go for a blend of 3 and just rotate them. I like people like Michaelenko from Everton. I like people like Dunk. But do I want to be doubled up on Brighton? I don't know. But Dunk is always a solid option with some goal threat. I like Hall and what's his name? Byrne from Newcastle. I like Anderson from Palace. Konsa from Liverpool. I know is a rotation risk, but probably worth if you're happy with like your bench cover. He's kind of worth an option. So these are the 4.5s where I just need to probably run through my structure and like how they rotate with each other. But there's a few names that I like. So mate, that's the general structure. So makes sense. Any criticisms?
Questions? This is where I'm coming in with my questions. 2 players in particular. One's not really a bad option. I just want to throw something at you because I think a lot of people will be thinking it, right? I'm going to start with Barco. So the first 3 Brighton fixtures I think are pretty awful. Did he play Everton, Man United, and Arsenal or something? So I can't think exactly, but it's poor. And in game week 4, it swings and it goes to some nice fixtures. If you believe the Fantasy Premier League app, Estupiñán's back in game week 4. So you've got to think Barco's then getting benched, and Estupiñán's coming straight back into the squad. So is it so what? So what? Yeah, why is that the pick as your 4 million and not somebody like?
I think it's just Estupiñán won't come back, right? Because he's been out for a long time, right? So if he's back at game week 4, doesn't mean he's match fit, right? So there's game week 4, game week 5, Barco's got, right? Then it's like all the noise come out with Brighton that he's actually a better player. And Estupiñán was bad last year. Let's be honest, right? So Barco's, I think it's a minor thing, but if a player is taking set pieces, it means in the hierarchy of the team they're like pretty high up, right? So I think that's always a good indicator that, like, I remember back in the day, like my first FPL season, that was when Kane was like, I got him at 4.7 million, and like I knew he was going to start when he was playing like Europa League and was taking free kicks. There's always a sign, like it's a little thing, but it's an indicator. So I think that's promising for Barco. So you might keep it. And fundamentally, mate, it's a structural thing. I want a 4.0 defender on my bench, right? Barco has the highest upside out of all of them. I don't want, like, the Leicester players, no one knows who's going to start a centre back, right? So then it's what? Harwood Bellis from Southampton, who are just going to be awful. So do I want Barco with the upside that he can play for a decent side and maybe play game week 4, game week 5, maybe game week 1 in my team? Or do I want Harwood Bellis who's going to get 1 point every week? I think it's a no-brainer. It's a structural thing. That's mainly it's a structural thing with like some upside, right?
You might find that I have one of the other 4 million players in my team in a little while. The second one, and it's Salah is obviously a great pick.
Yeah.
He's arguably the greatest FPL asset of all time. Now, you mentioned that there's a conversation to be had between Salah and Saka, which I get. There's a lot of people that are looking at it presently, so it'd be good to get your opinion on it in Salah versus Jota, because Jota, if you want a Liverpool attacker, is £5 million cheaper, right? And just to back those people up, and I'm not saying Jota's the better pick, but it'd be good to get your opinion, but just to back those people up. Last season, the amount of minutes it took for Salah to get a goal return was 84 minutes. Jota, 67. Season before, for Salah was 102. For Jota, was also 102. So over the last 2 seasons, it's taken Jota less time to get an attack and return than it has Salah when he's been on the pitch. And that's the caveat. Jota's got a bit of a bad injury record compared to Salah. So he's, you've always, if you've got Jota in your team, he might go down 1 week and you don't see him again for the next 7. But do you think Salah is worth 5 million more than a Jota?
Medium term, yeah. Like obviously short term, it's high risk, high reward, right? I mean, Jota, I'd say this as well. That's why I'm smirking a little bit. I mean, it's a classic case of just people getting excited. Everyone knows what Salah's all about. Everyone knows what Jota's about. Jota, if you didn't have Jota in your team before Sevilla and he scores a nice volley, and then you're excited and put him in your team, then you're playing for FPL dumb. That doesn't change. You know he can score a goal, right? So him scoring a single volley in a pre-season friendly doesn't mean anything. Like that's just you getting just too excited by nothing, right? If you had him in your team long term, then fair enough, right? Jota, what else I'd say about Jota? You mentioned he's. So yeah, that's me preaching about don't take preseason too and single moments in preseason too much. Don't. I made that mistake last year with Havertz. But Jota, yeah, you've mentioned he's injury prone, but the bigger thing is he's got Gakpo and Nunez competing with him for one position, and those players are as good, if not better, right? There is in no world they will not eat into his minutes and rotate those starters. I'm sorry, Nunez is a better player than Jota. He is, and I think in the new manager system, either Gakpo or Nunez fits in a little bit better than Jota, right? I think Diaz has got the left wing nailed because he is the out and out left winger and is a better player fundamentally. Salah the same. So Jota is competing as the centre forward, and he's a bit of a weird player, right? He's not an out and out 9, which I think is what's being looked for, and he's not a creator. So if he starts game week 1, great. However, he's going to get subbed at 60 minutes every single game. If you're behind, you're going to bring on Nunez. If you're in front, you're going to bring on Gakpo for control. So I think he's a serious minutes kind of risk. People forgetting who the competition are and the quality of these players, and I think arguably they're better than him. So yeah, the expected goal involvement per 90 is outstanding, but you hinted it. The issue is, what are his minutes going to be? Salah's are going to be 90. He's going to play 25% plus more minutes on the pitch, and we know that a lot of stuff happens in the last 5 minutes, right? Traditionally. Yeah, it depends if you're happy with 60 minutes of Jota. So I'm not a fan. I think it's a trap. I think it's a trap, and I'm glad people got excited by his volley.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Because Diaz scored twice in that game, but nobody's going to Diaz.
Diaz deserves hype more. He had an outstanding Copa America, right? And he has less competition there. And I know there's a myth as well. Jota is an outstanding finisher. Over his career, he's an average finisher. His goals are exactly the same as his expected goals. Last season was the first one where he outperformed it. Previous seasons he performed worse, right? So I think it's a bit of a myth that he's an outstanding finisher. It's because he scores spectacular goals. I don't think he's an outstanding finisher. The stats, I bring the receipts. The stats say that. Tell that story. You've got him in your team.
Compare him to Nunez. No. Well, or do I? I might. You'll see in a bit. But yeah, when you compare him to Nunes, he is an outstanding finisher just because Nunes has been so bad at finishing. But yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of people jumping to Jota, and then it's what that extra 5 million obviously lets you do with the rest of your squad. So I just thought it'd be it was worth.
They got to check why Jota, why not Gordon? They got questions up. Am I bringing Jota in because I saw him score a volley against Sevilla, and I've forgotten that Darwin Núñez and Gakpo exist?
Probably could be a. But yeah, I think do you not think you have to have half Liverpool attack?
Yeah, I think there's a more valid argument to say, given the fixtures, is Saka a better option over Salah? Now, it's not a 5 million difference; it's a 2.5 million, but you still can do a lot there. But like Saka plays for a really settled, exceptional team. We know his role. He's got great expected goal involvement. He's on penalties. He'll play 90 minutes, right? So that's a more valid argument.
Yeah. And it's one last. Yeah. But one last thing for you on Salah, right? I've had a look through, and I don't think, depending on the rest of the squad, so if you've got Isaac and Haaland, for example, I don't think you're captain and Salah until about game week 5. So do you think there's an argument for maybe getting in a slightly cheaper player like a Saka?
Yeah, I think there's a debate for Saka, and that's about it. So I think you can play some scenarios, right? Is Salah and a rotating 4.5 million defender better than Saka and Trent? I think it's close. It kind of depends on a bit of a toss up, but I think that's a real decision. So I think there's certainly that debate for sure. I think the good thing about Salah though is like it gives you flexibility in that you can move him to anyone in one move. And I do like that approach when you're starting the season, right? Is that flex? Salah can move to anyone. Like you can't move to if you've got your money spread around, you can't really get to him if he scores a hat trick against Ipswich, right? And then looking at the fixtures, would that be a massive surprise given how he starts seasons historically and the quality of Ipswich? Like it'd be you wouldn't expect it, but would it be a surprise? Probably not, right? How do you get him in? Because your money's spread between all your different your premium defenders, and you don't want to get rid of your defenders because they have some nice fixtures and they play for a good team. So I think psychologically, I like putting money in a couple of players because then I can move away from them really easy.
I get that.
But I think it's a valid debate for sure. But I think it's more of a conversation of Saka or Salah is the debate. It's not Jota or Salah.
Well, when I've got Jota on my team in a minute, I'll be embarrassed. But we'll move on. So this is now on screen for those that are watching. In theory, what is your current draft? We're going to show another couple of your drafts that you've been working on, but this is probably the one that is your current template, if you like.
Yeah, it's closest to it, right? So I'll kind of read it out. Flecken and Valdemarson as the two keepers. Like I said, Flecken could become Henderson by Friday. I'm kind of probably trending towards that to be honest, just because we'll talk about wildcards later, but I think I know roughly where I want to be targeting, right? So my window probably favours Johnson over Flecken at the moment, but I've got Flecken. Then defenders, I've got Quansah from Liverpool, and I know he's a bit of a rotation risk. Barco against Everton, so I'm kind of like playing him and on set pieces straight away. Pedro Porro against Leicester. Fernandez, Eze, Salah, who I captured in Nkunku. I'll talk about Nkunku in a second. Muniz, Haaland, and Isak, and then my defense at the moment is Michaelenko. My bench is Michaelenko, Quansah from Villa, and wings. So I'll talk about where there's debate. I've mentioned Henderson versus Flecken. The player I really don't like in this draft is Nkunku because I'll be honest, I've only seen him play once, like for was it Leipzig he played for?
Good question. No idea.
But like Chelsea have okay fixtures, right? They have a bad first fixture, but then a nice run from game week 2 to game week 6, 7. I don't know how they could set up, right? I thought they were good last season, actually. They were low-key really good, actually. They were just very, very unlucky. I have no idea how they're going to set up. And, like, I think Nkunku is just like, oh, he's too good not to play. But he's going to play as a 10, an 8, a 9. How Chelsea going to look like? I think, by all accounts, they've been pretty atrocious in terms of the setup. I don't rate their manager at all. Like, I think it wasn't great. I don't think it was that impressive at Leicester. So I think Chelsea might be in the voids totally, and like going on Nkunku, where I don't know where he's going to play. I've never seen him play, and I'm just going on hype. Probably feels a bit stupid, right? But I think he's probably got the most upside of the 6.5s given the fixtures for Chelsea, right? But he could quite easily become. He could turn into a Bailey, a Gibbs White. He could go down to a Rodgers from Villa, or down to a Pereira or Smith Rowe. Smith Rowe, I've got a few doubts just on his minutes, like as well. So I think I think I wouldn't go there necessarily. Or what I'd probably love to do is actually upgrade him to Gordon. But that means like I have to sacrifice Pedro Porro, right? So there's a few things around the edges that I've got to work on. But like Nkunku is the player there that I'm like, I don't like.
And it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they've just bought Neto for however much money. How many players have they bought this window? 27 or something crazy. They've got over 40 players in the squad. He's competing against Palmer, Jackson, Sterling. It looks like Gallagher's going to stay, so no doubt he'll get minutes. As I say, they've just bought Neto. They've got so many players in his position.
Yeah, and so it's just bad vibes as well, right? So like, I think all like being sensible, you'd think I'm not going there, but it's like I don't really love any of the 6.5 options. I think Nkunku probably stands out with the ceiling, and then you could go Gibbs White, but it's kind of a bit dull. You could go Bailey, but Villa's fixtures don't really kick in properly until game week 4 onwards, right? And my wildcard window means I'm not getting a lot out of him. So yeah, I've got Nkunku out of default, right? But yeah, it might be better to downgrade him to a Rodgers maybe, and then get Trent over Porro. I don't know. Or what I'd love to do is try and justify getting Gordon into that midfield, and then that would be a nice midfield, to be fair.
Yeah, I get that. And it's touched on it briefly, the wildcard window. So based on this squad, is this kind of set up for those first 6 game weeks, and then you're looking for wildcard? Pretty sure that's not set, and you'll see how things go. But is that your initial thoughts?
I've got a bias. I've been like in my heads and like whatnot, been running first 3 game weeks are biased towards that, and then first 5 game weeks generally is the kind of window I'm looking at. And then I think game week 6 is nice because you're I think with the ability to roll transfers, right? I think delaying your wild card has less value personally. Like we'll see if that comes into fruition. But like yeah, I think game week 6 seems interesting because like especially for someone like me who's not starting with any Arsenal players, potentially there's a real nice game week 6, 7, 8. I think Arsenal got like 2 home games. They're playing 2 promoted sides. They got a really nice run, right? So I'll be switching on to free Arsenal. City have a nice run. I think European fixtures have just about started, so you can see the schedule, you can see the people in each of the Champions League groups. I think for me, that's provisionally the wild card I'm targeting. Although, if I roll my transfers, mate, I can do a mini wild card anyway, right? So I'm making 2 or 3 moves and transform my team. So I've been biased towards that short-term window, but I think my team can flex to the medium term if I don't need to wildcard it. But yeah, game week 6 is provisionally where I'm looking at, and that's why, for example, I'm favouring Salah a little bit more than Saka. If I was thinking a bit longer term, I think Saka becomes the better option. Salah has better fixtures the first 5. The first 9, Saka does when you extend it. But like, so I've been playing around with that. So like, yeah, I think, and that means like people like Konsa and Barker, they're not really an issue, right? Because like, yeah, I'm not waiting around on them too long. What about you? Have you looked at any wildcard windows?
I don't want to give away my template, but yeah, I also currently have 0 Arsenal players, and I saw those 3 games from game week 6. I'll be honest, I've not looked into it enough. Because I don't see me playing a wild card, so I've built a squad that I look at and think, you know what, between game week 1 and game week 5, not purposely, I don't see the need to make any real transfers, which is quite a nice place to be now that you can rack them up. So my early doors plan was just to get to maybe 3 transfers for game week 6, and then as you say, do a mini wild card for free.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't have to be like religious with this stuff, because I mean, looking at the squad I got on the screen there, Muniz could become João Pedro game week 4.
Yeah.
Nkunku could become Minter from like Brighton for their nice run. Could become Bailey, right? So I think there's flexibility, right? If Salah looks shit and like Saka's going off, that's a simple
Easy
move.
moves.
Likewise, if part if like Chelsea look amazing, so I think there's a lot of flexibility, and I won't be afraid to. I want to roll a few transfers. Like, I'm not going to be obsessed with it.
Yeah. Gotta get that. But yeah, there you go. That's it. So that's where you're currently on. But
give or take some of the 4.5. Give or take like Nkunku versus Gordon versus a cheaper midfield. Yeah. So yeah,
have a little no Salah draft.
Yeah, so I just wanted to play around with this just to see the impact of that extra 2.5. So almost the same team, right? So like the only difference here is rather than Michaelenko from Everton, who wouldn't start every game, he'd be a rotating option. I've got Trent, who would start every game. And instead of Salah, I've got Saka, who I think, first game week, I think he's about equal, right? He's not far. Wolves home versus Ipswich away. There's not much difference in that. Like, so yeah, it looks quite nice, doesn't it? I think it means that then I've got really settled defense. I mean, Porro and Trent would play most game weeks, and I'd be really happy with that. Big attacking threat, of course. Then if Quansah does nail his position in as a centre back for Liverpool again for their nice fixture run, I've got another, in theory, pretty premium defender there, right? So yeah, it's just a nice way of playing around and kind of seeing the art of the possible, right? I could also with this one have done Nkunku goes to. I really more I'm thinking about it, the more I don't like him as an option. I could go Gordon over Nkunku, and then I could go Gabriel, right? Instead of Trent, or I could go Guardiola, right? So like, you can see the benefit it brings for sure.
Absolutely. You've just
it's a really valid option. It's the Liverpool fixtures that is kind of put me off. They have the best fixtures for the first 5, which is my potential wild card window. And I want to be invest in that attack.
Yeah.
It's tough with
only Salah.
Well, Salah's the best option, right? But like everyone else, like there's doubts, right? I think Diaz is a bit of an awkward price point, but it's like, can he actually finish? Like, or is he just like a good player? And then we don't know who's going to play as that forward. We think it's Jota, but we can't be certain, and the minutes will be things. So it's tough. Like I always want to play good teams with good fixtures, and I think Liverpool tick that box. And I prefer, obviously, price comes in the equation, but I prefer Salah over Trent. But yeah, it's interesting to see this. You can see the value it brings when you distribute that 2.5 difference. What do you prefer, a Salah draft or Saka?
As a Liverpool fan, I'm biased, right? Salah. I prefer Salah to begin with, because every time I look at Arsenal, and the reason I haven't got any Arsenal players in is they've got 2 nice fixtures. They've got the 2 home fixtures in game week 1 and game week 3, but then in game week 2, 4, and 5, they're away at Villa, away at Tottenham, and away at City, and that just stinks.
Well,
so
Spurs away isn't bad from an attacking point of view, right? You got to bear that in mind, right? You don't care if the team wins from an FPL point of view. It's just the chances for your attacker to get an attacking return. So it just feels like Saka will get an assist or a goal. I don't mean he's not going to get these 16-point returns, is he?
Well, was it when it was 2-2 last season? Although that might have been at the Emirates, to be fair. And he scored. Did he not score twice against Tottenham? But I think they were at home. I don't know what happened away. In all fairness, but no, he's away. He's very.
Maybe it's just a perception thing, but I don't see him as a player that gets these massive hauls. Right? I feel like he's a guy who ticks along.
And like solid 8s and 9s. Even the second home game week 3, it's against Brighton, and I think Brighton I know they didn't have the best season last season, but then they're generally not a bad side. I think even last season defensively, at some point, they were in the top 6 defenses in the league statistically.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Wolves game or bust. But Arsenal are the best or second best team in the league, right? So that's the caveat. They're better than Liverpool, right, and more settled than Liverpool, and they've improved year on year, unlike Liverpool, right? So you caveat that, but yeah, the fixtures aren't as good for the first 5. I think we can agree on that point.
You mentioned a player, Gvardiol, and he's not in your template, like the team that you're currently on, nor is he in this team. So I don't know whether it's a fair comparison. Porro against Gvardiol, is there a reason that you've gone for Porro, or is it purely budget? Because I appreciate he's playing 5 million cheaper.
I mean, I just like Porro's first 2 fixtures more than I like City's first 2 fixtures. So there's that really short-term bias. Yeah, I think City's fixtures are tough. Obviously, they're a good team, but I could see them conceding, right? Then there's the slight rotation risk, not a massive one, right? But people like Ake still exist, right, and can play in that position, right? So that's the second bit. This is a history of City in those sort of games, just conceding a random goal, right? Yeah. And I think this is just like a guess, right? I'm thinking the likes of Doku and Grealish will be a bit more in favour for the start of the year. So the reason why he was playing as a winger was because Doku was out of favour and or injured, and Grealish was injured, so he was out of necessity playing as the winger. I don't think that will be the case this year.
Yeah, just it's to the upside. Do you think Porro is going to have more upside than Gvardiol, basically, from an attacking point of view?
I think
you're on the spot there.
No, Gvardiol's better than Pedro Porro, right? But there's the price difference, right?
Yeah. I suppose it depends, because Porro will no doubt take some set pieces.
If I was going 6.0, I'd go Gabriel, and then like Calafiori, I don't think it's going to replace. He's going to be Zinchenko's replacement, surely, right? So then you've got that big defense of centre backs, right, who can play the ball, right? He might. We'll see, but I don't think it's going to happen like anytime soon that Timber or Calafiori will replace Gabriel. The worry is they're both left-sided centre backs, right? But yeah, I'd start Gabriel. Despite all that, I'd start Gabriel over Gvardiol. Better defense, and like he does have goal threat.
Yeah, from the corner, would you?
I'm not sure. I'm not convinced of myself. I'm not convinced of myself there.
I'm out of Gvardiol in my team. You'll see. The next one is just like your random wild card. So this is just your manic picks that you thought were quite interesting. Now, you mentioned Bob's broke his leg, so he'll have to jump. But yeah, the rest of
them. Yeah, so this is a draft where like similar base players, right? So, but I've got Trent in there. I've got Salah, right? So, but like that's been enabled by getting rid of Nkunku, who, yeah, I've said I'm not a huge fan of. Like, it just feels like doing out of necessity. But I've got rotating fourth midfielders, Bob and Rodgers, right? So yeah, this can't work now because Bob has broken his leg. But yeah, it could be Rodgers and Minter. Could be a variation this with a Smith Rowe and Rodgers, or Andreas and a Rodgers, right? So yeah, I think it's interesting because keep Salah if you really want him, and you can squeeze in Trent as well if like you downgrade that fourth midfielder, and like you can play around with some nice rotation options as well. I think Rodgers in it is an interesting option for sure. Finished the season well last year, had a good pre-season. You'd think he plays given the personnel now, right? Douglas Luiz going. And he was starting quite regularly back in the last year and doing well. So you think he plays. So he's got a player. He's like a player who could make a mockery of his price. Interesting option. I think it's less appealing with Bob being out because you could have played that game of City leaks, right? Play him the first game week, where he probably would start, and then then you got that prime home game against Ipswich, right? And it's like you can rotate him with Rodgers quite nicely. I don't think Andreas or Smith Rowe or Minted can do that to the same level, right? So maybe that's a dead pick, but like it just shows what you can do if you like downgrade that fourth mid. I might revisit this, see if like if a 5.5 stands out, and then that means I can just like get rid of Nkunku.
I don't like him at the minute.
It just feels like stupid, right? I really don't like Chelsea, and I have no idea about that player. I have no idea about his minutes. I've just heard he's good, right?
Yeah,
that's stupid, right?
I don't know what you mean.
That's like a bit of a stupid approach. I've just got him in there for the sake of it, right?
But he's just a placeholder. You can pick Bourne, Gibbs White.
Yeah, or like Bailey, or I could get Rodgers. Like, I mean, I just feel like he's got the highest upside, right? None of those players are massively exciting. Yeah.
The fixtures, like, because after City in the first game, their next, leading up to your wildcard window game week 6, their fixtures are unbelievable.
Exactly. That's kind of the real reason, right? Is the attacking player who everyone says is pretty good for an okay team with good fixtures. Yeah, it seems appealing. Whereas like Bailey doesn't have great fixtures until 4. They're mixed, I'd say, the Villa ones. They get better that kind of back end of it. Gibbs White, he plays for Forest, and like he's never been prolific, has he? He's ticked along with his assists and goals and gets penalties, but despite being I like him, he's a good player. He's never been a threat outside of set pieces, is he?
And you remember I had him for about 9 weeks last season, and he returned once. And then I sold him, and he returned in 3 in a row. So I feel a hurt to Gibbs White.
I mean, I've got Fernandes in all my drafts, and like Fernandes is probably a premium version of Gibbs White, but he's got a lot more threat, right? He's far more creative and just a far better player, right? So, I mean,
So if you can find the extra 2 mil, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no one's finding that. Yeah, you can't. It's not a like for like comparison, is it?
But no, it's good to see. Good to see. It's well, we'll touch on where I'm at. I've kind of teased it all away, but I've only bought one draft up. I won't go through it all because you've touched on quite a lot of these players, and I've got Nkunku, interestingly. I'll talk you through, and then you can criticize as much as you want, because that's the whole point in this, Matt. That's for me to, and this is the level I'm at. You're at the higher level. How do you think, right? So I'm going to come across. I picked a few things I'm going to pick out and my reasons behind it. The ones that are maybe less obvious, right? So number 1, Sells in goal. Now I've got Matthews on my bench who isn't going to play because obviously he plays for Palace, and Dean Henderson's going to be the starter there. But the reason I've gone Sells, and I appreciate they've got Miguel and they've recently bought him, but I'm pretty convinced Sells is going to start. Reason being, he's been given the majority of the minutes in pre-season. I've been looking at fantasy football fixes, predicted 11. They give Sells a 98% expected to play rating.
Yeah.
Under what's that manager called? Nuno, yeah. Under Nuno, Palace's defence was the 4th best in the division last season, behind Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. And those first 3 fixtures, especially, again, it's the short-term biasing, but they're playing. Even if you never look at the next 6, right? They're playing Bournemouth at home, Southampton, Wolves at home, Liverpool, Brighton, and Fulham. I think they're better fixtures than what Palace have got, and I think they're better fixtures than what Brentford have got. And yeah, that's it. That's the reason I've gone for him. Great defensive stats under Nuno, better fixtures. But I know he might not be the starter.
I get the logic, and it's like sound thinking. Like you said, they were a good defense based on underlying data. Yeah, I don't hate it. It's just whether like you're confident he's going to be the starter, right? Whether you want to take that risk versus a Flecken or a Henderson. But yeah, I get the logic. Yeah. I don't hate it. I think it's solid logic.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go with it. Then the start and the back three. So again, I'm not going to touch on these too much because you've spoken about them all, or we have already. I'm just going with Mikolenko, Gvardiol, and Trent. I'll come on some of the two bench defenders because I will touch on them. Across the midfield, Eze, Salah, and Kunku, and I am on Smith Rowe. Now I'll talk about Smith Rowe and Wood together because, in all honesty, I've got 11.5 million left. I've got two positions. I like the fixtures of Forest and I like the fixtures of Fulham. At the minute, I'm on Smith Rowe and Wood, right? And the reason I'm on them is Smith Rowe, obviously, he's at a new club. I think he played 2 games for them pre-season and scored 2 goals. He's their record signing, so I'm expecting him to start. They've got good fixtures following the United game, so I really want to have part of that attack. But he's not played a lot in the last 2 Premier League seasons. He played a grand total of 504 minutes with Arsenal over the last 2 seasons. So that's putting me off. I've got Wood, and I appreciate, he's not a guaranteed starter. But again, Fix have got him as 88% expected to start. Pre-season, 3 goals, 2 assists. I think he's probably the biggest attacking threat that Forest have got. I like their fixtures, and I can move them easily. Like as you mentioned, I've had the thought on it in game week 4. Wood could quite easily go to Pedro if I decide to keep Wood because he continues to start. Their first 10 games are pretty decent. But Smith Rowe and Wood could quite easily become Hudson-Odoi and Muniz. I've got 11.5. I just want one of. That's just where I'm at. But that could, as I say, that could quite easily switch to Hudson-Odoi and Muniz because they're probably more guaranteed minutes, right? Go on, you're thinking something.
Do you want me to start throwing stuff? You haven't completed your team. Finish your team off.
Okay, finish the team. Right, so that's my mid. I've then got Rodgers on my bench, not Winks, and the reason I've done that is I had the extra money, and I didn't really know what else I could do with the 0.5. I think Rodgers has had the most minutes in pre-season of any Villa player, scoring 3 goals, 2 assists.
Yeah,
he only joined on the 1st of February, made 11 appearances. I feel like he's going to be starting a lot, and I can only see his value going up, in all honesty. So I thought if I get my 5, he'll be there because I think a lot of people are bringing him in. And his fixtures trade very nicely with Hudson-Odoi or Wood, depending on who we've got. So as soon as the Villa fixtures, the Forest fixtures go terrible in game week 4, Villa's are great. So it's an easy move. So I don't think I'm going to have a benching headache. But that's the reason I've gone for Rodgers over Wood. I just think he's going to give me more of an upside, and I can afford it. And then up front, the others, Haaland and Isak, not going to touch on them too much because they're fairly obvious picks. Bench, the 2 defenders I've got is Johnson and Harwood Bellis. It could be any. I've gone for those 2. Harwood Bellis trades fairly nicely with Mikolenko, which is part of the reason I bought him in. He's also, I'm quite happy with his first 6 games when he trades with Mikolenko. He's getting most of the minutes in pre-season. He scored in pre-season, so I think he's got a bit of an upside in terms of going forward. And then Johnson, similar, he ended up playing as a winger in one of their pre-season games. But let's be honest, they're going to sit on my bench, right? They're not really going to see the pitch. They're just bench fodder.
No, fair enough. Like it's similar structure to kind of what I've got really. So there's definitely like some kind of players that stand out as most drafts have got them. So I think I'll start with your bench. Harwood Bellis and Johnson, you got 2 4.0 defenders there.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester, I think they're going to be all really bad teams, right? There's nothing that suggests to me, like based on their championship performance and what they've done in the transfer window, that any of them are going to be good, right? Maybe like Leicester under what's his name, Cooper, will be like solid defensively and whatnot, but a little bit more solidly. But like all these teams, they conceded a lot of goal. None of them dominated like other teams that have come up recently. They were conceding lots of goals. They were playing this like possession-based kind of game. This could mean that you're gonna have to like start Mikolenko every single game.
Bad games, really, yeah.
If you're comfortable with that, like I think again 1s and like 0s and 1s from Johnson and Harwood Bellis. Like so, I mean, I made the case of Barco earlier. I'd consider that at least for one of them, right? Like I mean, if you're like Harwood Bellis is probably the more nailed one, right? Who like it's fine, yeah. If you want a 1 point to here and there, I would consider Johnson to Barco, just as that upside. And you'd be happy playing Barco occasionally?
Occasionally would. Well, I mean, could you even do Rodgers to Winks and then upgrade a Johnson to a Concert?
Like a Hall or a Concert? Yeah, I'd consider that. I'd consider that. I just think, yeah, 4.0s, like it's not giving you a lot of flexibility in your team, and you're gonna have to like play Mikalenko every single game, which like that's not ideal. That's not optimal. But like, I mean, just like food for thought. Rodgers, I like. I'd be starting Rodgers over Smith Rowe for sure. I don't know why yeah.
Excited by pre-season.
Like Villa are better than Fulham. Rodgers is better than Smith Rowe. I'm sorry. Like people think Smith Rowe is great. He's not. Like Rodgers is better. Villa are better than Fulham. West Ham are worse than United. Like, yeah. If you got Rodgers, why are you benching him?
So this tells me when it comes to a Smith Rowe and Wood or Hudson-Odoi and Menez. Hudson-Odoi and Menez.
Well, no, we're talking about Rodgers though. Rodgers, I think, is better than Smith. Is better week one than Smith Rowe, right? So I think maybe if you want to keep Rodgers, right, it's a question of Hudson-Odoi versus Smith Rowe. Who rotates better with Rodgers? And like
Hudson-Odoi does.
I think that helps you. Like Rodgers, if he's plays for a better team and is probably a better player. Like it's obviously just the minutes risk, right? But like you got to kind of manage that and take that into account. So yeah, I'd be starting in game week one over Smith Rowe for sure. Like Smith Rowe is going to get subbed. He might not even start. Like Andreas Pereira is the same price, and he might be on pens. He has been historically for Fulham when Willian hasn't played and was pretty prolific at it. And he plays every single minute, and he was playing at the 10 before. So does Smith Rowe even play?
Question.
I feel like an easy transfer. They brought him in, right? But it's like how he fits in with Pereira and like the penalties kind of piece. I don't know if he starts game week one. And if he does start game week one again, it's like a 60-minute job, right? I think he's played 2 pre-season games. That's it. Subbed at 45 minutes. Said he needs more match fitness. So like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't hate the pick for Smith Rowe, given that he's a good player and like fixtures. But like, yeah, Rodgers needs to be starting over him. Okay. Unless you don't think Rodgers
probably going to move.
If Rodgers doesn't play, why is he in your team? Have you got doubts on his minutes?
Yeah, I've got doubts on his minutes. But to be honest, I'm probably going to move Smith Rowe to Hudson-Odoi, and then I'll move Wood to Menez. And I'd rather play Menez than Rodgers. And given the fixture, I'd rather play Hudson-Odoi at home to Bournemouth than Rodgers away at West Ham.
Are Bournemouth worse than West Ham?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think West Ham look like a solid team in terms of players. You're right, but yeah, Isak, Haaland, can't critique that. Wood is a solid pick in it based on the fixtures. I think it's like decision of your structure: Wood versus Muniz versus João Pedro. My thought process is just like Wood isn't as good as Muniz, but Muniz doesn't have like a massive sample size, right? It's half a season, and then I do think Taiwo is like, I think he'll be eaten into Wood's minutes more than Raul Jimenez will be eaten into Muniz's, but that's just a personal preference, personal view. Eze, Salah, obviously they're most of my drafts, so I can't kind of critique that really. Smith Rowe, I think like you said it yourself, it's a new team, lack of match fitness, injury problems historically. How does he fit in that system? Now he's looked good in the 2 games he's played in preseason for Fulham, but I'm kind of interested in that dynamic with Andreas Pereira. Like who plays? Are they both going to play as 10, or is Pereira going to play more deep? Could Smith Rowe play more deep? I doubt it, but I mean, that'd be an interesting dynamic.
Wait and see. Wait and see on him.
Exactly. I do think he's going to be slight minutes kind of risk, like for the first couple of kind of games, getting like rotated a little bit. But yeah, we shall see. I think over 5.5s, if that's your price point in midfield. Hudson-Odoi, he's an interesting option. Pereira is an interesting option. He was a very interesting option, but Smith Rowe's decreased his appeal. I think if he was playing as a 10 on penalties for Fulham. It'd be like no brainer. But Smith Rowe has like dampened his appeal.
Yeah.
I think Brereton Diaz is really interesting. He was really good for a terrible Sheffield United team the second half of last season. Got goals, good expected stats. Southampton are going to be really bad, but they've got okay fixtures for the first 5-6 game weeks. He'll probably be the first 4 players. So he's like the out of position striker. He might be on bench as well. Armstrong might take them. He's captain. He did take them last year, but like Diaz will be the striker. Like Armstrong is more of a winger. He's like an advanced forward winger sort of thing. So Diaz, I think, is an appealing option that like people are maybe sleeping on a little bit. He might become the best 5 point. He might be the best 5.5 there. But yeah, I mean, don't hate it. Nkunku, I've offered my opinion. Like I've got him in my drafts, but I don't love him. But like, you similar position, or you like sold on him?
Well, I'm not sold though. It was based on preseason again, and I know preseason's preseason. We shouldn't pay any attention to it. But he seemed to be. It was a comment by the manager, whatever he's called, and he basically said Nkunku can play anywhere across the top 4. So I'm like, well, he's probably going to start then. And he scored the most goals during pre-season for Chelsea. And the narrative seems to be Palmer's going to be number 1 and Nkunku's going to be number 2. So they're going to start every game week. But yeah, the closer we get, the more I'm like, but will he? Because they've got all these players. They've just bought net. Like we spoke through them before. Chelsea have got about 77 options for the attack. So,
Nkunku, I think, is okay from a minutes point of view, right? Because he can play forward, but I think Jackson will start. He can play as the left or right winger, but won't start. Right? Palmer will probably be. Well, actually, there's competition everywhere, right? That's a bit of an issue, right? Left wing, you got Sterling. Right wing, you got
Neto. Neto's left wing, and they've just bought him for 50 odd million.
Obviously, right wing, you've got Palmer can play there. Madueke can play there. The 10 Palmer can play in the 10. That's probably where Nkunku will probably be the 10, I think. But Palmer can play there as well, as can Enzo Fernandez. It's like, so is the midfield going to be what? Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez, Lavia, like who else they got? That guy from Brighton. Yeah, Casado. Whether they all put like there could be a world where could be a world he plays instead of Jackson up front, which would be kind of really, really cool. There could be a kind of world where I think it's probably most likely that he'll play as the 10. But could be a world where Jackson starts as 9 and Enzo Fernandez is the 10. Or Palmer is the 10.
Yeah. It's the unknown. The unknown. You talk yourself out of Nkunku just doing this. You're welcome.
It's okay to have one or two risks, but like it's kind of compounded that he's got City away the first game.
Yeah.
Well, the upside comes after. The upside could come after he's been benched, kind of get it, and then defenders get Mikolenko. I'd look at like where players rotate and stuff like that. But yeah, get these a solid option.
Get rotation with them.
Get Trent, but I mean, do you think Liverpool are going to generally like keep a lot of clean sheets? We've got the fixtures, I guess.
Yeah, and it's possession football for Slot, right? It's all about passing. It's all about keeping the ball. Yeah. And who's our most creative player? It's Trent. So if we're keeping the ball, the idea is, I just feel like he's going to be whipping a lot of balls into the box. And he's only played 1 against Sevilla, but he got an assist in that game. For me, he is. I know he's the most expensive, so he should be. But for me, he is the only lock in my defense. He's going nowhere. I can move Gvardiol, and I don't want to, but I could. Whatever team I have, Trent will be in it. I can't get rid of him.
And I get Gvardiol as well, so you don't really need to debate that. I mean, why I'm probably trending towards a cheaper defense. I just think the top teams don't have that beautiful fixture run. They have mixed runs, right? So I don't think it's going to be churning out clean sheets every single 3 or 4 in a row. And I just think at the start of the season, teams are a bit more attacking and concede more goals. I think that happens year on year. That's a period where teams concede a little bit more. So that's just like a personal preference. I get Guardiola. I'm right again. If he's playing like almost left winger, then he breaks the game. So I get that.
Yeah. And the last thing to discuss on it is captain choice, because from the looks of it, we're both gone for different captains. Because I'm just going to go back to your team. There we go. So from the looks of it, you're currently captaining Salah away at Ipswich, and I am on Isaac at home to Southampton. Now, looking at the predicted points, top three, Saka, if you've got Saka at home to Wolves, is predicted 5.7. Isaac is 6.4 at home to Southampton, and Salah is 6.7 expected points away at Ipswich. Now, probably not too much to chat about here, but I appreciate, your Salah, your Isaac, obviously your vice is on Haaland. What plumped you to land it on Salah?
I think it's a toss up. I don't know why my vice is on Haaland. It probably should be Isaac, but it's going to be close. As probably the predicted points on most like sites will suggest, it's probably super, super close. I'd say Isaac has a higher floor, right? I think he'll get a return, right? And he's a flat trap bully. I say Salah has a higher ceiling. So I think Salah probably has great, and he's a midfielder, right? So he gets extra points for the goals, he gets extra points for the clean sheets, all that kind of stuff, right? So I think Salah's got great chance of a double-digit haul. I think Isaac has got probably better chance of just getting a return, right? So depends where your risk appetite is there. Southampton home is a better fixture than Ipswich away. I'd say that. I think Southampton are a weaker team than Ipswich for sure. And like home versus away does make a difference. Newcastle and Liverpool, both good teams. I think Liverpool slightly better. Newcastle will be very settled and back with a good team, right?
Yeah.
Pope is back. Joe Linton will be back. Good team, like good, solid, good, strong team. That. Super close, really. Salah has the history though as well. Like I always just remember, like he's a guy that starts like a train, right? Always returns first game week of the season, right? There's players that just do that. They have these
7 in a row.
Yeah, so I mean, but it's close. It's close. I think either Salah, Isaac, Saka are all very good options.
Yeah, I'm on Isaac presently, probably because of obviously as a Liverpool fan, I'm like, we might, new manager. They've just been promoted. They're at home. The crowd might be up for it. We might struggle. That's my Liverpool self talking. So as a result, I'm on Isaac. I'll probably leave it on Isaac if I'm honest. I think you're right. I think I'll be surprised if Isaac doesn't score. If Liverpool come out of that game with a 1-1 and Salah's not got a contribution, will I be totally surprised? Probably not. But again, that might just be my Liverpool fan talking. So I think for that reason, I'll probably leave it with Isaac. And if Salah scores, I'll celebrate it anyway.
So. I get that. He's been good preseason as well, right? Just from like kind of the positions he's putting up. His heat maps are wide. That's the same every single year. He's more efficient than any other player, right? Probably, certainly in Liverpool, but argued in the league, right? When he gets a touch in the boxes to shoot in a really good position, right? So the heat maps don't really matter for him. Like I think there's there's those sort of issues, but like those sort of like comments going around. But he's a really good option. So Friday night you've got Smith Rowe at the moment playing.
At the minute, we'll see. That'll probably change to Hudson-Odoi, and Wood will probably change to Menez. So we'll both have Menez. So we'll both be, and I'll be rooting on a United defeat, and Fernandes to get sent off.
He's going to get a 95th minute penalty, right?
Just a 1-0 United win. No doubt, and all the people that'll be there. Because we might as well talk about this. We'll move on to the last screen. Nobody needs to continue to look at my draft, but we will be together on Friday watching it because we're going to Fantasy Football Fest. Are you excited?
Yeah, man. Should be really good. Just don't embarrass yourself.
I'll try not to by playing Smith Rowe. or having Ben Johnson on the pitch.
No, exactly. No, it should be good. And I think tongue in cheek, but like if there's any team leaks like last year, we'll be there hearing it directly, right? So we're not going to get screwed over by Gabriel benches. Right? What's the equivalent this year? Mooney's benching.
Yeah. Last minute. That'd be everybody be on Chris Wood or Pedro.
Yeah,
but it should be good. Yeah, looking forward to it. And the first time I've been, I think it's the first time you've been as well. So it'd be good to see what that's all about. And I believe Kelly Summers is the host, if I'm not wrong. And I'd listen to the FPL podcast, the Premier League official podcast, every week. So it'll be like I'll try not to fanboy too much.
Man, you didn't get the gig. I thought you were gonna this time next year.
So yeah, we'll work on that. We'll get rid of Kelly. You can become the Sam Bonfield of the pod, and we'll hijack it at some point. See what happens.
Well, yeah. Anyone come and say hello. I mean, can't say we're gonna wear anything distinct, but like, yeah, come over and say hello. Like, it'll be a good evening. Mate, one topic you didn't cover yourself, right? We hinted at it was like wildcard windows and that plan and like transfers. So where are you at?
Yeah, good question.
We've not looked at it.
Let me remove that. Not fully. So I have a bit, right? So I've looked at get rid of that. Don't need that one anymore. Oh, by the way, one sec. I will answer that question, Matt, I promise. But something happened over the last couple of weeks, Matt, since our last pod. So I will bring this up. So if you're not following us, we're looking to bring back for the next episode questions for Matt. So just to prep yourself for that, Matt. So if you do want to, why do I get all the fun asking Matt all these questions? If you do want to submit a question for Matt to answer, either post a comment on if you're watching us on YouTube, put a comment on the Spotify, or get us on Twitter. You'll see our handles underneath our names. For those that are listening, I am at FPL Journey to 10K, and Matt is at FPL Corbs. Send on your questions, and I'll look to get them asked to Matt. But I don't know what's happened, but over the last couple of weeks, our subscribers have like doubled. So we've gone from like 340 to 700, which is insane. So just before we do close, I do want to just say, if you're new to us, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We've got a plan. We hope to get to 1,000. That's the first real milestone. But honestly, thank you so much for joining us. It really does help us out when you click subscribe, and hopefully you learn something from these, and it'll help you to get the next installment as well. So yeah, just wanted to do that. But I will answer your question, Matt. I will answer your question. So yeah, I've looked at transfers, my team, in terms of the first 5 game weeks, and I don't see that I need to make many transfers, as I say. So I think I'm going to go into game week 6 with probably 3 transfers.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I think I can do enough. So I don't want to earmark a wildcard window. So that's an on the fence answer, that, isn't it, Matt? I don't want to. I feel like I'll have enough transfers to do my changes.
You got to be flexible, but like, yeah, you're working towards. You're happy. You're looking at assessing your players that you're picking for the first 5 game weeks, as I've been doing. To be fair, looking like you'd be happy with your team. We'll make opportunistic transfers, but you can feasibly save transfers that window. And then, yeah, you see some fixture swings in game week 6, and you can either move them for free transfers or a wild card.
Exactly that. I've worked very much on a 6-week window, and then take it from there, really. So it's obviously injuries could happen, yada yada yada. Players like Smith Rowe might not see the pitch, and I'm stuck with him. We'll make transfers as and when I need to. I'm not sticking to it. But yeah, exactly that, mate. I'm happy with the team for the 6 game weeks, and maybe 1 or 2 transfers, and then we'll see where we're at.
Right.
Good news with the wildcard this season. Go on, sorry, mate.
No, you go ahead, mate.
Yeah, there's the good news with the wildcard is if I do end up building and I've got 3 transfers in game week 6, but I look at it and think, you know what, I probably could do with making 6 or 7. If I play my wildcard, when I come out of it, I've still got 3 transfers. So that's a cool change.
No, exactly. Which is probably why it's more powerful to use it earlier, right? Because but now what was I going to say? So obviously you shared your draft. Who are the players that you got the most doubts with?
Smith Rowe, Wood. After today's conversation, in Kunku.
Is that fair?
Mikalenko. Is it what? Sorry.
Is it a fair challenge with Nkunku, or are we just like?
I think it's a fair challenge. Nobody knows. I mean, Chelsea have been dreadful pre-season as well. By the way, like they have been like honking. And you just, I know I keep saying it in jest, but they have got literally, is it like 47 players on their book? Like that's insane. So you don't know who's going to play. So it makes sense. Let's put it this way: if I can have Nkunku or I can have, I know you said he was boring. I don't mind Gibbs White as a pick. It is boring, but for the first 3 game weeks, would I rather have the guy who's on penalties, guaranteed 90 minutes, and has got 3 nice fixtures, probably, over an Nkunku, who might not play 90, might not start, and he's definitely not on pens if Palmer's in the squad. And he's got worse fixtures.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah, he's certainly the guy. That'll be the trigger for me in terms of like the knock-on effect. Is like, do I go up from an Nkunku? Do I keep him? Do I go to a Bailey, or do I downgrade him down to a Smith Rowe, Brereton, Diaz, or even a Rodgers? And then you get a better defender. I think that's probably my final decision. I think I'm leaning towards keeping Salah over Saka just, but it's close. But yeah, like we reserve the right to contradict ourselves as well, right? We might turn up on Friday with completely different squads. So
absolutely. Do we both promise to get us on Twitter, by the way? Because do we both promise to put our final locked team in prior to the 6:30 deadline on Friday?
Yeah, well, I do that with Fix now, so I've got to do that like just before the deadline. But yeah, we'll try and put it before the deadline. I guess it's subject to phone signal, right? It's not like
that's a good point.
Like a blackout spot. I'm pretty sure it's central London, so it'll be decent. But
that kicks off at 3, and I'll start off beer. So I'm hoping I've made my decision prior to beer talk. So I might whack mine on early at like 2:30.
Get it almost locked in for 3 o'clock, innit? And you don't want that mini stadium effect when everyone's on their phone at the same time and you just have no signal, right? So exactly. Try and semi lock in, subject to like final team news. Or copy in like some really good players. We'll post on X and say this is my team. You're like, okay, that seems quite nice. I'm gonna try and get it in for 3 o'clock, I reckon.
Yeah, that seems a good plan. And then, but yeah, as you said before, Matt, if anybody that's listening is there, let us know. Give us a message prior. Good to have a beer. Check on what your team is, and just be. That's why we're all there, right? We all like to talk about fantasy football. So yeah, reach out and we'll happily talk about fantasy football. It's going to give my wife such a break. She listens to me non-stop about this thing, so she's looking forward to it probably more than I am.
That would be good. It'll be good. Looking forward to it. I mean, I'll hand over to you now for your finishing monologue. I know last week I screwed it up by just sitting there silently. So.
Well, your camera's froze for me. I don't know whether that's for you, but or you that are watching. But at the minute, you're in a really nice pose.
No, I'm looking curious. Yeah, it's frozen for me. You're like picking your nose on my screen. I'll send you a pic on WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's about right. Just constant. If I froze, all right. Okay, on yours. I'll look forward to the picture.
This is you on me. I'll send it over now. Watch this. This is you on mine.
Well, I feel like the listeners are going to be constantly wanting to see it. So I'll just. Oh wow! I'll just. I'll just hold it up so you can see what Matt's looking at. Yeah, there you go. Some more of that to see on Friday. It's not the best picture. But anyway, we've digressed. But Matt, thank you as always for joining us. I know we're going to come back early next week because I live in Edinburgh, and every dog is and member of the family that I haven't seen want to come and live here for a couple of days to do the Fringe for free. So at the end of my week's pretty messed up with that. So thank you. I think we're going to do it on Monday. So thanks for being great with me there. So I know I'll see you on Friday, but we'll pick up next Monday as well about plans of how game week 1 went and how game week 2 is shaping up for us both. And I look forward to chatting to you about it then.
Absolutely. Should be good. All right. See you Friday.
Well, enjoy the game week. Enjoy the game week, Matt. Wish you best of luck. See you Friday. And to you, the listener, thank you for joining us as well. Very much appreciate your time as always. As I say, if you first time joining us or you've been a constant listener, thank you so much. Please do hit that subscribe button. It does help us out, and hopefully we can get to that first 1,000 milestone. But whatever team you end up picking, I wish you all the best of luck for game week 1. Come and say hello if you're there on Friday. Otherwise, we will catch you next week. Until then, all the best.